And here we are a year later, after 2 presidential visits, both of them promising quick response and quick recovery. And I just want all of you to think about, as you ride around Lake Charles, you see people living under in tents or in their garages or in some places in their cars. Because that recovery, while it's come and it's made a difference in saving a lot of people's lives, there's still people waiting because the public housing hasn't been recovered. And the money to get that done is stuck in the Senate of the United States, for which we have 2 senators in there that allowed a senator from Kentucky, of all places, to block the supplemental. So the real message is, promised by 2 presidents, and nothing's happened in a year to deal with the extended repair that need to be done in Lake Charles, Cameron Parish, South Beauregard and parishes to the north that lost critical infrastructure that need replacing. Has the federal government spent money here? Yes. FEMA is still working to meet the housing needs, and that need has continued to grow as we find people in the middle of hurricane season again, some of them with exceptions, living in their garage. And if you go this way in town, the number of blue roofs is absolutely shameful. Because of the program as it's run by the government now and by FEMA, they spend thousands of dollars putting a blue roof, for which a few dollars more they could put a real roof on. And people, those blue roofs are now deteriorating from the sun and the wind, and we're in the middle of hurricane season again. So we've got to do FEMA better, and we've got to do hurricane supplemental better. The supplemental for Katrina was signed within 3 weeks. And here we are a year, and it hadn't been done. It passed the House quickly. It's stuck in the Senate, is where it's stuck. And since January, they've signed at least 4 to 5 supplemental bills dealing with COVID. And the way that works, the way I understand, they could have put that $3 billion for Lake Charles on any one of them bills. But our 2 senators didn't get it done. The White House didn't get it done under 2 presidents. So here we sit in Lake Charles in the middle of hurricane season with deteriorating blue roofs, people living in their cars in some cases, some of them living in their garages, arguing with insurance companies. Where's the insurance commissioner? Have y'all seen him here? Has he put a team in here to try and resolve people's insurance issues? Where's the Attorney General? Oh, I forgot, he's working on masks. Where in the hell is our Attorney General holding these insurance companies accountable? Because the people that need help are poor working people. The people with money, you can pass their house, they've settled because they had lawyers to force the settlement. So we got a long ways to go on recovery here in Lake Charles. As you look at this tattered sign behind me, the Port of Lake Charles, which the city fathers take a lot of pride in as being the center of economics of Western Louisiana. That being said, it doesn't mean nothing if the continuing extensions of tax exemptions are given to companies that come here, like Sasol got a $2 billion of taxpayers' taxes that should have been used for roads and schools in Calcasieu Parish. No, they gave it to a company from South Africa. And now we need to build better. We're still waiting on that bill to come out of the House and the Senate to rebuild this bridge. That's not a done deal yet. It's looking good, looking better than it was last week, but we need that bridge rebuilt. But that bridge is about 20 years beyond its life expectancy. Every administration that's pushing down the road. And now we're talking about bringing more industry into Lake Charles, and some of that industry, ladies and gentlemen, is dangerous. LNG, the Lake Charles LNG plant will be within 2 miles of the Graywood plantation. Y'all know where that is. Very upscale community within 2 miles. Engineers and scientists have estimated that that LNG plant explodes, it will have a fireball out to 3 miles from that plant. It will be equivalent to a bomb that was dropped in Japan during World War II. Are your local leaders telling you that? But we got an organization called FERC that reviews federal permits, and they keep signing off on these LNG plants. Because when that plant goes out and during a hurricane, and if they lose power like they did in Cheniere, well, they nearly lost that plant during Hurricane Laura because nobody expected 145-hour wind. Have you, the community, been told what level wind this Lake Charles LNG will withstand? Have you been told? No. Why? Because that information is withheld on the FERC well site. They tell you at FERC to go look at the company's information. You think the company knows what wind level is sustainable for that Lake Charles LNG? They don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at great peril because we continue to approve high-risk industries in and among where our people live. And these LNG plants are not that proven the way they're doing it because they're preparing that LNG. We all grew up using natural gas. That's not a new technology. But when you take it and you make it into liquid natural gas, they have to freeze it sub-zero. And some of these tanks that they're putting in is equivalent to an atomic bomb if they were to explode. And look, Cheniere is still running, but there's still tanks at Cheniere that haven't been recovered. Before Hurricane Laura, they had problems. You don't get told that information. So we've got to challenge our leadership at the state and the federal government to ensure they're not putting these things in the middle of Hurricane Alley. I hate to call it that, but we've had a lot of hurricanes coming. I was here for 2. The effects of Katrina, the effects of Rita, and Gustav after that. We've had a lot of hurricanes come through the Lake Charles area. It's something you'd learn to love with. But we didn't have all the plants historically that we have now, and more dangerous plants. And I know there's a promise of jobs. Everybody wants jobs. But what good is those jobs if those companies don't pay taxes in the parish? Because a lot of them people drive in here from Texas to take those jobs, and they go back home on the weekend or during the week. We're the 3rd largest energy producer, and we're the 2nd poorest state. What in the hell's wrong with that picture? So back to the message of the day, the 1-year anniversary as we come on the eve of Laura hitting landfall in Camden Parish. We need to hold our leaders accountable, and we make sure we're building back better. We need to call our senators to get that supplemental for $3 billion passed, most of it coming right here in Calcasieu Parish. And we need to challenge our leaders on continue to approve these LNG plants, because what is the minimum safe distance from an LNG plant? You know, if you walk up to a tank, it'll say don't smoke within 50 feet. But here we have an LNG that we're allowing existing construction to exist inside the minimum 3-mile fireball that will happen if those plants explode. And we got subdivisions already existing within 2 miles. Who's reading the paper? Who's doing the assessment? Who's holding the companies accountable? And all this promise of jobs, yeah, there'll be construction jobs, but you'll also be giving them about $2 billion in tax exemptions that should be coming to the parishes of Calcasieu. Every child here should have 2 teachers in the classroom. Every school should be brand new. Every child should have a computer. Do we have that? Do we have good roads? Why? Because they give all the money in tax exemption to these LNG plants. Cheniere got a $2 billion tax exemption. Are the people down in Cameron Parish, do they have good roads? Do they have, I mean, they've been waiting for a year almost to get water restored. That is the challenges we face, ladies and gentlemen. And it's time that we build back better, smarter, and we take into consideration the impact of what the industry, are they building to 145 mile an hour wind? If they're not, that's what they need to do, because they need to keep the chemicals in their pipes. And that don't always happen. So that's my message to you. We need everybody in the community listening to call the senators to get this supplemental, raise hell, get this supplemental passed across the White House, and let's get this done, and let's get ready for hurricane season. And then what is FEMA going to do about those deteriorating blue roofs? They put them up. Who's going to see about those people? We're going to wait till the next hurricane comes? That's shameful. That is shameful. We need to fix that, and we need to retool FEMA. And if you had to deal with them, you got results, but that result didn't come easy. You got to fight with them, argue with them, provide paperwork 3 times. We need to fix that organization, because with climate change, we're going to have more storms. And I haven't even talked about the threat of flooding. Flooding is an issue, and we're going to have to deal with it. As we saw from the spring flood that occurred here, buildings that had been repaired went right back and got flooded. And now the insurance company said, well, was your building damaged in Laura or in Delta, or was it the flood, or was it the freeze? This is the dilemma we got. That's why we need state leadership to take this on to help people recover. Thank you for coming today. I'll take any questions you might have.
Anyone have any questions from the press?
Yes, sir.
On top of the gas plants that we have, one in Cameron, and there's a new one going up right on our beautiful beach down at in Cameron, the city of Cameron.
Yeah.
The beach, practically. Yeah. This ship channel is being dredged to depths unheard of to accommodate these ships that are literally larger than cruise ships.
Right.
I think we have another miss to go here. And the deeper they dig it, the faster that water is coming up to Lake Charles with the next surge.
I think that's a good observation, sir. You can expect more tidal surge the deeper they dig it, because there's nothing to stop that water. And you could end up with waist deep Rita. I've been by the courthouse over here after Hurricane Rita, and I saw that water came up, it went back down, but there was a lot of water in parts of Lake Charles.
They dredge it every day.
Every day. So we're looking at another disaster.
Correct.
And that's going to be the danger from tidal surge.
Correct.
And how do we tie all that together? Most of these companies are not American companies.
Japanese companies shipping our natural gas to China.
Any more questions?
Yeah. How do you feel about the president being encouraged to declare a climate emergency?
The president declaring a climate emergency? Yeah, we need that. Because we think we got problems now, it's going to get worse. We got fires out west. We got unexpected floods in Tennessee. We got an almost unforeseen hurricane go into New England area. And here in Louisiana, we've got a flood in the spring that where did that come from? Where did that come from? Getting 12, 14 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. That is the impact from climate change. And it's not just us, it's the rest of the world. It's going to affect migration from South America. When those fields dry up, those people are going to go where they can get work and get food. And where are they coming? They're coming to North America. I expect at any given time of the year during the peak migration season, we don't see 1 million people walking from South to Central America. Because if you were there and you didn't have food and you were harassed by drug dealers, what would you do? People migrate. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And much of this has to do with climate change because we keep overheating the earth. And what does LNG plants do? They process methane into liquefied natural gas. What do they do when they put a plastic plant in St. James Parish? Of all the progress that the state claimed we've made in reducing CO2, that plant, Formosa plant in St. James, will double what we have saved in the last decade. And, oh, by the way, it's been approved by the state and the federal government. And the only thing holding it up now is some environmental justice folks who challenged the permit, and now the Corps of Engineers is going back and look at that permit for the Formosa plant. But it makes no sense. If Sasol was operating at full capacity, it would be the biggest carbon polluter in North America and the second carbon polluter in the world. Thank God a part of the plant didn't work. And that company is from South Africa. Have y'all gotten any love from South Africa? Have they come around and given y'all new cars and checks? That money going back to South Africa, called South African oil. That's what Sasol is. And thank God part of the plant didn't work. But they still took the $2 billion of tax exemptions. When is the state going to get that money back? We could do a lot with building new schools in Calcasieu Parish if we had gotten that money back. No, we didn't get it back. It's a mess. And we lost the town of Mossville in the process. Any other questions?
I have a question. Let's
Yeah.
say state and federal officials do not take into consideration what you're urging them and telling them to do. What can residents do? And with the power, the little bit of power that they do have, what can they do?
Well, normally I would tell you call your congressperson. But that wouldn't work in this case because he's off to Mar-a-Lago. Or he's chasing people up in Alaska.
I do have an answer for you. Again.
Hey, let me answer the question.
Okay. Okay.
You need to call the governor and you need to call your state legislature is what people need to do. And they need to go to the parish council meetings. The parish council here is getting a free ride. They go in, they're set back in their big chairs and they make all the decisions. Because y'all don't show up. The public don't show up. In many cases, we are hamstrung because we got relatives working in the industry. And we don't want to jeopardize their job. But we got to put some heat on this parish council. Then we need to know, when are we going to get that money back from Sasol? Because that money that should be coming to what? To the parish. When are they going to hold this company, Lake Charles LNG, accountable for what is the fire burst radius around that plant if one of those tanks or a ship explodes? When are they going to answer those questions? We got to hold the parish government accountable. And we need to press the state legislators. And I know that's hard because the only time they talk about Calcasieu is when they're in Baton Rouge. They come here and they disappear. And you got to challenge them in the street. You know who they are. They walk around this town like they own it. Shake hands with everybody, take no accountability for nothing. We got to hold them accountable and we got to challenge them when we see them. Thank you, that's a good question.
How do you feel about the voting across the country being gerrymandered to make it in favor of the type of politicians that support these LNG projects?
Yeah, I think voting rights is going to be a living hell in the next 2 years because what some states are doing adjusting the voting right and what's going to happen with districting. Because districting sort of right now, they're all gerrymandered. So it's not like they're all equal. They're gerrymandered to meet certain political persuasions. And some way it's good, but most places it's bad. But the state laws that are being passed is reminiscent of after Reconstruction when the White League and others created laws that hampered people's right to vote and discouraged people from voting and scaring people from voting and saying things like you can't give a citizen a bottle of water that's in line. I mean, how obvious is that they're trying to rig the election and trying to select who get a right to vote? And we need the voter right bill to be passed, whether it's the John Lewis version or the voter right bill. One of them need to pass to put back into what was passed in the 1964 equal voting law that the Supreme Court over time has failed to hold up, because we found out we can't trust the Supreme Court. Remember, this is the same court when I was going to school in Point Parish that said segregation was okay, separate was equal. And now they have diffused the impact was laws that have been passed to protect their equal rights to vote, and now it's back in the hand of Congress to pass the John Lewis voting right, and they'll have to do some compromise. But we need a voting right bill so people like Texas and Georgia and others can't go in and take the votes and make them count the way they want them to count. That needs to be protected. Everybody has a right to vote.
Lastly, John Bell Edwards has acknowledged that climate change is driven by man in his second term. And now he's talking about moving toward carbon capture and making Louisiana the place where people should ship their carbon and inject it underground. What do you think about that?
I think that's some, what you might say, a lot of assumptions have been made as to the science behind carbon capture. First of all, it's only been done in a small experimental way. The question is, do you want to put carbon capture beneath the Chico aquifer? That's where you get your water from. Do you want it in there? If it's bad in the air, what the hell is it going to do to your water? We don't know. But industry like it, the people on Wall Street like it, China like it, because it's a paperwork lie. They can say, well, we putting our carbon in the ground. Yeah, that's just like you keeping your chemicals in the pipe too. That should not be believed. I just don't believe it's technically sound yet, and it's an overpromise, and it's a way for industry to say, we put so much carbon in the ground, trust us, now give us more tax breaks, because they want tax breaks to put that carbon in the ground.
As far as people who don't believe in climate change, how do you go about trying to convince them?
Okay, let's think. In the last year, we had what? 2, 3 hurricanes, an ice storm, and a flood. What the hell else you need to convince you?
That's it.
That's it. What more you need?
I'm convinced, but what about everybody else?
Well, that's my message to her. It's just like the people that won't take the shot. They'll find an excuse not to believe. You with me?
How would it work if it was declared a climate emergency, that there would be a move in the national interest? Is that why it's important?
Well, if we had a climate emergency, first thing we'd do is put a big emphasis on going to all the abandoned wells and capping the methane. The methane is the biggest contributor to the climate heating. We know where the wells are. We knew who put them in there. We need to get people out there. Not all the wells need to be fully restored at this time. Some of the wellheads, you can go in and do some maintenance on them and protect the methane from going up. But since Louisiana don't enforce the rules, we have an enormous amount of methane coming out of the over 60,000 abandoned wells in Louisiana because the state don't enforce the rules. But right now we could go after methane that's being released from abandoned wells. Then we could go to all the plants that flare. There's no reason for a plant to flare. They do it because it's cheaper to burn it off. All the flaring could be gone. Technology is there to prove it. Or they could turn it into energy. They don't want to do it because it's cheaper and they don't have to do it. That's what I would do in an emergency, declaring an emergency. Well, I thank y'all for coming. And to our citizens, let's get out here and challenge our local and state government. Now, you got any questions you want to answer? It's your time to talk. I want to give you a chance to talk.
No, I was going to give them your contact information if you wanted to give them.
No, but if there's
today.
something you want to say about the recovery, because you're in the middle of it, go ahead.
Yes, sir. You want me to give them your
No, you
website?
tell them about recovery from where you see it.
Okay. Well, again, one of the questions was asked, what can we do? And I heard one of the gentlemen say we could just sit here and flood or be wiped out. But we just want to keep reiterating the message that we're not going to be a climate sacrifice here in Southwest Louisiana. And there are organizations that are fighting against this. We have Healthy Gulf, who's present in the community, Anthropocene Alliance. We have the Bucket Brigade, who arranged this press conference today. So there are organizations who are fighting against these LNG and petrochem facilities that you can get involved with. And if you need any information, you can reach out to us and get information. But also, just like Dominique and myself with the Vessel Project, it takes the citizens working together, helping each other, building being the community that we are, and making sure that we get this message out. So we want to thank you again for being here, Dr. Honore, and getting the
General
Honore, and getting the message